Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 346th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see that this battle was fought on the Flatlands map. Okay, our first teammate is Brotherhood member Uther. A lot of you know Uther, very good player, and he has bought the Rome SPQR faction. Just have a look at his army there. I think he's got 11 infantry there, including an Eagle unit. If you notice there, he's bought that Eagle unit to give morale to his infantry as his general. Looks like it's a cavalry general there. So that's why he's got that Eagle unit. Let's have a look at his general unit there. Old school Roman cavalry armoured general. And if you look at the upgrades, you'll see that that general is fully upgraded. So that's 9 upgrades. 3 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. This is a really old school general here. This is the type of thing you used to see maybe 11, 12 years ago, or longer than that even. So it's nice to see that. Let's have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. And he's got 7 upgrades on his Praetorian cavalry. So that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So looking at that army with the Eagle unit for the infantry morale, very well upgraded cavalry and a fully upgraded general. That army could have been made maybe 10 or 11 years old ago. And that is a really tried and tested Uther army. Our next teammate is RTW player Lee. A lot of you will know Lee, another very good RTW player who has bought the SPQR faction. Now if you count his infantry units up here, you'll see that he has 18 infantry units. So he's got 18 Praetorian cohort infantry and just 2 cavalry. Let's have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. You'll see he's got 8 upgrades. So he's got 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry. So he's got 18 infantry and 2 cavalry. It'd be interesting to see if those 18 infantry will make up for just having 2 cavalry. Could it be 2 heavy loaded infantry there maybe? We just have to wait and see. Our third teammate is a Brotherhood member, Steve Longshanks. He calls himself Henry V now, but a lot of you will know him as Steve Longshanks, and he's also bought the SPQR faction. I'd just like to draw your attention to his army build here. If you notice, he's got 5 archers, so he's got 5 of the long range auxiliary archers, but he's only got 9 infantry. Just 9 infantry. I notice that he's got his general as an infantry unit, and he's also got an Eagle unit as well. So he's got 2 lots of morale there for his infantry, but he has only got 9 infantry and 5 archers. So he's got 6 cavalry. Let's have a quick look at his upgrades on that cavalry. And I see he's got 8 upgrades, so that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on that cavalry. So those upgrades kind of make that cavalry super elite there. So yeah, 6 well upgraded cavalry, but only 9 infantry. Be interesting to see how well that does during the course of the battle. Okay, our fourth teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who's got his usual old 12 infantry and 6 cavalry there. Just to say, this battle is a little bit unique because the 4 of us have been playing Rome Total War since the first day it came out. How unusual is that, to get 4 players on the same team who have been playing Rome Total War since it first came out? Remember, 2 weeks ago Rome Total War was 14 years old. So each one of us has been playing this for 14 years, and between us we've got, I think it's 56 years of combined RTW experience. 56 years between us. Whoa. Okay, we only play on a Friday and Saturday night now, and we really are just kind of weekend warriors, and maybe we may have lost the edge, the winning edge that we once had. But as I say, this is quite a unique thing to see on RTW today. 4 players on the same team that have been playing Rome Total War since it first came out. So it'll be interesting to see if we see many old school tactics in this battle. This should be a great one for you to watch. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at Lee's infantry formation here. And if you notice, he's got what is known as a checkered board formation here. And this is an actual formation that the Roman army actually used back in the day. It was a very effective formation, and it'll be interesting to see how well Lee uses this original Roman formation during the course of the battle. Should be a great one to watch, and I think you'll find this an interesting battle. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at Uther's formation here. Now, this formation is a formation that he's been using for years. As I say, this is a really old, tried and tested Uther army here, and the formation is a tried and tested formation as well. We've seen this formation in battles over the years for a long time. If you notice, as I said earlier, he's got an eagle unit for morale for his infantry. So they've got their general morale bonus there, if you like, from that command unit. And there's his old school Roman armored general unit here. Now, him and RTW player, Brotherhood member Conan, were two of the best with that armored general unit. Be interesting to see how well he does. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Mars, who's bought the Rome Julii faction. I think he's got the 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. These are the 3 cavalry will be hiding in the long grass there. But I think looking at that, yes, he looks like he's got the bog standard army there, well, except for an eagle unit. He's got an eagle unit and a general unit there as well. So he's got a double lot of morale for his troops. Nice army there by Mars. Their next teammate is Brotherhood member Bark. A lot of you will know Bark. And I see he's got 12 infantry units there. Yeah, it's 12 infantry units. I hope new players to Rome Total War still like looking at our army builds here to give you some idea of what might suit you. As I say, he's got 12 infantry there. Look at the upgrades on the first line of his infantry. We're only 6 upgrades, gold shield, gold attack. But look at on the second line of his infantry, he's got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on his secondary battle line there. So that's a good idea to keep your well-upgraded troops back to use at a later stage. I see his general's just got gold shield, gold attack, so my guess is he'll keep his general out the fighting for as long as possible. He's got 2 long-range auxiliary archers, and I see he's got 6 cavalry. Let's have the upgrades on his cavalry. Okay, he's just got gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry. He's plump for putting more upgrades on his infantry. So that's quite a well-balanced army there. Okay, their next teammate is Brotherhood member Canary Kurwa, who has also bought the Rome Julii faction. And let's see, he's got 4, 9, 10. He's got 14 infantry. So it looks to me like, and my guess is he's got, he's got 13 infantry, 1 archer unit, long-range archer unit there. So he's got 5 upgrades on that and 6 cavalry. So let's have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. And I see he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think he's got 7 upgrades. So he's got an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry there. So that's another quite well balanced army. And their 4th teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has bought the Greek Cities faction. This is one of his favourite factions. He's got very good armies, tried and tested armies. You see, for a pilot shield unit, he's got militia hoplites. Now, you very rarely see these on a 31k battlefield. He hasn't got any upgrades on them at all. But as we've said before, kind of cheaper units, they'll soak up pile as long as they stand their ground, the same as an expensive unit. I see he's got a couple of armoured hoplites in front of his main Spartan battle lines. There, they'll also act as pilot absorbers as well, I'm sure. And then he's got his Spartans in behind those armoured hoplites. So that's a pretty good balanced army there. And this is an army that he's bought before. Very reliable army. And I see he's got 4 long-range Cretan archers as well. So there's the enemy team. Very good players. It's got the potential to be a really exciting and great battle for you to watch. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle here, you can see Uther advancing with his armoured cavalry general, being very aggressive, looking to harass and harangue the enemy lines and also attack if he can, and bangs, that cavalry unit goes in there. Straight into the flank of moving enemy infantry. He will cause a lot of casualties there to the unit that he struck. Notice he didn't hang around too long there, went in, bang, hit the target, pulls back. Let's see how many casualties. Right, he's reduced that unit to 66. So he just killed about 15 there with that hit, and I don't think he suffered any casualties at all. I'll tell you what, that tactic there is straight out from about 12 years ago. This is really old school tactics here. You don't see this very often on a modern day battlefield, but him and Brotherhood member co-founder Conan were 2 absolutely experts with the harassing and haranguing with their cavalry units there. Okay, he's just going to stand there, look, hoping that heavy cavalry is going to be walked around and try and chase him off, because he knows he can outrun that heavy cavalry easily with that fast-moving general unit. Once again, look, being aggressive here, trying to get the enemy to throw pilers at him, because that unit moves so fast. If he can encourage enemy units to throw pilers at him, he knows that the pilers will miss those units. They move so fast they avoid the piler hits. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get the enemy to waste pilers by throwing them at his fast-moving armoured unit here. This is a classic example of old school, and then bang! Went to go to hit that unit, pulls back. Once again, trying to encourage the piler throwing at his unit there. But the Julii general there is not going to be fooled with throwing pilers. Nice display there of old school cavalry tactics. Once again here you can see Uther making the best of that armoured cavalry general unit, and bang, straight into the flank of the enemy infantry there. As I say, this is really old school tactics here. You know, maybe 9, 10, 11 years ago you used to see this a lot by very good armoured generals, if you see what I mean. But yeah, he's very, very aggressive, attacking. And don't forget, he's harassing and haranguing the enemy, trying to disrupt the enemy battle line as much as he can, also with that cavalry unit. But as I say, with the four of us, as I say, with 56 years of combined RTW experience, this is really out of the old school drawer here, what he's doing with that cavalry unit. Great harassing and haranguing and attacking tactics with that unit. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, you can see that Steve here, who calls himself Henry V now, is doing a right flanking action with archers covered by his cavalry. Now, of course, newer players who roam Total War, why do you think he's got his cavalry behind his archers as he moves out to the right? That's to stop any enemy cavalry from trying to take out his archers there. He's got his own cavalry, well upgraded cavalry, right behind his archers. So if the enemy do try any cavalry hit on his archers, he's got his own cavalry there to cover. As you can see, his archers here are in close order. So that means that they got more impact, can do more damage with their archers. And he's shooting right at the, I think the enemy... at the moment he's shooting the enemy urban cohorts there, causing casualties with those archers. I see the enemy have moved over a Julii unit of archers there to try and counter his archers, which I'm sure that he will now see and start targeting himself. Okay, he's got his 5 archers now, are now targeting that Julii unit. If you look at the casualties that archer Julii unit is starting to take there, let's go over and have a look. Now, bearing in mind that a few seconds ago that was a fully intact Julii archer unit there. And as you can see, it's already been whittled down to less than 20, going down all the time. It's like a blizzard of arrows coming in on that unit there, because Steve's, let's say, he's got 5 good archer units there in close order, so the arrows put more impact, can do more damage. There you are, like he's taking that unit out in a matter of seconds, really. And I'm sure that he will target that other archer unit there. Right, over here on our left flank here, you can see what the Greek city's general wants. Just pause again for a second. What the Greek city's general wants is for one of us to take his army on head on. Remember, we've talked about this in other battle videos. Spartan generals want Roman generals to take them on head on, because they know that their troops will beat Romans in a head on battle. And that's what he wants. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm facing the Greek city's general, and I'm not going to do that. I see Lee's broken his army into 2. He's got one of his armies in behind mine, and he's got an army to my flank there. But we're not going to do what the enemy want there. We're not going to take that Greek city's general on head on. If anything, we'll pull back. As I say, never do what the enemy wants you to do unless you've got a plan to counter their plan, if you see what I mean. If you notice the Greek city general moving forward here, hoping that I'm going to move forward to engage his Greek city's army. But of course, I'm not going to do that. And I would be looking to pull back. If you notice, Lee's already pulling his B army back behind mine. I'm tempted to stand there and throw pilers into those Greek city units, but decided not to, because the Greek city's general would just run his army forward to engage mine. So I'm just going to pull my infantry back there. As I say, a new players to roam Total War, that's what Greek city generals want. They want you with your Roman army to take their Greek cities on head on. And then with their 2 hit points and their excellent attacking specifications, they probably will beat you. Meanwhile, over on our right flank here, you can see Steve has moved his archers around a little bit more with his cavalry support, targeting the enemy herbs, I think, trying to get round the flank. You've got Uther's cavalry there as well, ready to support if needed. You see, meanwhile, over on our left flank here, if you notice that both Lee and myself have pulled back a long way from that Greek city's army there. which is probably a bit frustrating for the Greek cities general there, who was really looking for a head-on tussle with us. Right, let's just pause the game for a second, just to take stock of exactly what's going on. As you can see, Uther and all of us there have pulled back. If you notice, as I say, Lee has split his army into two, an A and B army. He's got his one army on my right flank and one army on my left flank there. And there's the Greek cities there. He may well integrate his army with the Julia army there at a later date. You've got Steve's army there, or Henry V's army there. Not a lot going on. If you notice here over on the far right flank here, you can see Uther being very aggressive. I'll tell you what, the way that Uther's playing this game, it does really remind me of the way he used to play maybe 10, 11 years ago. Really aggressive, and as I say, using that cavalry armoured general, really old school there. And you can see Steve moving further around to the right, trying to give his archers a better angle on causing more casualties on the enemy troops. I think this is where the battle may well kick off on this right flank, with Uther and Steve both being very aggressive there. Can you see Uther running his cavalry forward and bang into those side moving enemy troops there? He would have caused a lot of casualties there. A nice aggressive lightning hit there, nice surgical hit there by Uther. Very, very aggressive. Yeah, that would have caused quite a few casualties to those forward units there. As I say, Steve keeps moving around here to the right, trying to, as I say, disrupt the enemy battle line, making them wonder what he's going to do next, and having to turn their units to face those archers there. So a nice bit of disruption work there by both Uther and Steve over there on that right flank. You see a lot of pilers being thrown here, a lot of pilers being exchanged here by the two opposing piler shield units. But Steve all the time is picking off urban units there with his really close order archers there. A lot of impact, because you've got them in this close order and they're quite close units together as well. That adds more impact to the archer fire and can cause more casualties. As you can see there, a lot of that Julii piler shield unit has now been taken out. Meanwhile, over here on our left flank, as we said before, the Greek cities and the Julii, enemy Greek cities general and the Julii general have kind of almost integrated their army there. And Lee, if you notice, he's brought his two armies back together now. He's taken, remember he had an A and B army, but he's brought those two armies back together there for the moment to face the threat there of the Greek cities and Julii units, which may try a combined attack on Lee's infantry there. We'll just have to wait and see. As I say, over here on the right flank, you can see Steve targeting that last piler shield unit. See the arrows like coming in like a blizzard of arrows onto those that last piler shield. Few soldiers left in that piler shield unit there. If you notice, Steve once again moving his archers and cavalry further around to the right, as I say, trying to disrupt and harass and harangue the enemy. I think both Steve and Uther have done a very good job over there on our right flank. You can see the enemy cavalry there massed at the back of their infantry, ready to attack when needed. But I think looking at the enemy team here, they tend to look to me like they've gone a bit defensive here, which of course passes the opportunity to attack to us here. We're on the forward foot. Okay, at this stage of the battle, you can see the Greek cities generals got three of his units there moving towards my army. And if you notice, his Julii ally is starting to move in behind those three units. Once again, they would like to take our army head on. Those three spear units forward would be in front of the enemy Julii army there as they attack, which is what they want. We're just going to pause the game for a second. Right, can you notice here that one of the enemy team has got a glitch? Okay, can you see that Canary's cavalry has actually glitched, but lucky for him, his glitch is behind his own team. So none of his cavalry will run into our troops and will suffer no casualties. Remember, when you see a glitched army, you never attack. You always, in fact, pull back, because nobody wants cheap kills in this game. Okay, as you see, Legion 22 there moving some of his spear units forward. Meanwhile, over on our right flank, once again, you can see Steve being very aggressive, tactically keep moving around to the right, trying to disrupt the enemy battle line there, making them move back to actually face his archers there rather than get shot in the flank there. And as I say, with Uther's aggressive attacking tactics there, and I think Lee has moved his army over, one of his armies over to this flank as well. So this looks like the flank that, as I say, the main action could kick off on. with Lee, Uther and Steve here on this right flank, playing very aggressively. If you notice further over on the left flank there, can you see that the enemy Julii general is moving towards my army? So I'm just pulling my army back here. As I say, Lee's army still to my right flank, and he's moved his other army over to our main team's right flank there. Right, you can see a lot of pilot exchanging going on between my pilot shield units and the enemy Julii pilot shield units there. As I say, when they start throwing those pilots, it's almost like raining pilots in. You can see so many of them. If you notice, once again, I'm moving my infantry back over towards Lee's army, who he's moved further over to the right there. And if you notice that Uther's brought some of his cavalry over there, so my cavalry, his cavalry, and my infantry there are on this left flank of ours. Let's say Lee's, as we saw earlier, split his army up, and he's moved one of his armies over to the right flank there, and the other army is by the side of me there. Okay, can you see here? The enemy is starting to move in. As I said earlier, I think the enemy is starting to look a bit defensive here, which of course, then the moment that you see a team go defensive, that obviously passes the initiative straight over to the attacking team there. So newer players to Rome Total War. As I say, there are some times in a battle where you need to go defensive, but remember, every time you go defensive, you then pass the initiative on to the enemy team. You have to react then to the enemy team. It's but there are times in battle where you need to go defensive. Right, as you can see here, we're putting a lot of pressure on the enemy team. Our archers are shooting into them all the time. Steve's archers there have done a lot of damage to the enemy there. If you notice here, can you see that some of the enemy archers are targeting some of our SBQR cavalry there? I think this, this archer unit here has been targeting our SBQR cavalry allies there. If you notice, if you shoot fire arrows, remember what we said before, fire arrows cause a loss of morale, and they can cause some casualties as well. Right, can you see the SBQR cavalry charging and bang! Steve's very aggressive, a cavalry hit there, straight into that Julii unit. Really aggressive, but I think he could suffer some casualties from pilots there. Can you see all those Julii pilots going into his cavalry? He would have suffered a lot of casualties there with his cavalry there. But that was a nice aggressive hit there by Steve. As I say, both Uther and Steve on our right flank being very aggressive. Let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, also Lee's got some infantry around this flank as well. So we got Lee's B army, you've got Steve's cavalry, you've got Uther's cavalry, you've got Steve's infantry over on this right flank as well. So as I say, Lee, Steve and Uther being all very aggressive here over on the right centre and right flank. As you can see here, Uther is engaging. Can you see he's still using that cavalry armour general to smash into those open order troops? Remember, open ordered infantry are very susceptible to damage from cavalry hits. Lee's got his other A army there, if you like, by the side of my army. But over here on our left flank, not a lot going on really. Quite quiet here on the left flank. As I say, the main action I believe is going to happen on the right flank and maybe the right centre here. As I say, it's nice to see both Steve, Lee and Uther here. As I say, this battle could have been fought 10 years ago with the aggressive old school tactics that's being used here. It is like, as I say, it's like almost like a time warp battle here. We've kind of been taken back in time. This is how aggressive that Lee, Uther and Steve used to play. And as I say, we are only weekend warriors now, but this looks like a battle when we were playing lots on RTW. Nice hit by Steve here, straight into the flank of those Julii troops there, and bang, as that cavalry goes in. Nice hit there by Steve, as I say, really aggressive with his infantry and cavalry and archers here. Where you can see the enemy Julii cavalry starting to counter-attack there. My guess is that Steve will pull his cavalry out of harm's way there. And if you notice there, we've moved a lot of infantry forward there to support his retreating cavalry. But that was a big hit there by the enemy Julii cavalry, and they moved infantry forward as well. So as I say, this right flank of ours could prove pivotal and decisive in the outcome of the battle. And I think the enemy can see that as well, as they got all their cavalry over here. Now remember, because their teammate is Greek cities, then he's put his team at a cavalry disadvantage there, so he has to do the best he can with his elite Spartans. But remember that Lee has only got 2 cavalry units himself, so we haven't got that much of a cavalry advantage. Right, can you see this SBQR cavalry going in? Bang! Hits that Julii Testudo unit. That was a nice hit there by the SBQR cavalry. Nice surgical hit there by Uther. You can see the Julii cavalry counter-attacking there. He might not have routed that Julii unit, but he would have caused that Julii unit a lot of damage there. You can see here some more Julii cavalry charging in, and bang, as that Julii cavalry hits. As I say here, over on this right flank of ours is where all the action is happening at the moment, and it could prove decisive here, whoever wins on this right flank, I believe. As you can see, as I said, all the enemy cavalry are massed on this right flank of ours. And you notice some those Julii units charging in there. Bang! Into some SBQR units. Nice aggressive hit there by the Julii cavalry. But you can see our SBQR allies charging their cavalry in as well. Bang! As that cavalry hits. And you can see that the Julii cavalry there are starting to look to counter-attack there. If you notice, I'm bringing my Scipii cavalry into attack there, but decided to pull back. As you can see now, there's some more Julii cavalry coming. I think that's all the Julii cavalry are now engaged, and bang, as that final wave of Julii cavalry smashing to our allies' SBQR units there. Some really big cavalry hits going in there. Right, can you see I'm charging my blue Scipii cavalry forward as well? But if you notice that the Julii cavalry are now pulling back, so I'll probably stop my cavalry there, because that was just to counter that cavalry hit, and probably pull my cavalry back, rally, pull the hammer back on the rifle, and get ready to charge back in. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. Right, if you notice here, Lee has done a good tactical movement with his infantry. He's gone around the flank of the enemy. You can see Steve still got some battle damage cavalry out to that right flank as well, but that was a nice tactical move there by Lee, taking infantry around the right flank. Remember, you don't have to keep banging away at a barricaded front door. If you go around the rear or the flank, you can find you can do a lot of damage there, and that's what Lee's doing there with his SBQR infantry. Nice move by him. If you notice, the Greek city's general now is advancing into Uther's army there, backed up by some Julii infantry. So the Greek city's general here is being very aggressive with his spearmen. But as I say, over on our left centre and left flank there, not a lot going on. But you can see that the enemy Julii general there over on our left flank is now moving his army over towards his left flank there. Can you see he's moving over there to his left flank there to support his allies. So as I say, not a lot going on our left centre and left flank. But over here on our right flank is, as I said before, looks where it's going to really kick off here. You see a lot of enemy cavalry and infantry involved, but as I say, a nice tactical move there by Lee, taking infantry around the flank. New players to Rome Total War, please make note of that. So Steve charging his cavalry in, and bang! He hasn't got a lot of cavalry left, but he's charging them in there. You can see Lee charging his 2 units in, and can you see my Scipii cavalry coming in as well? And you can see the Julii cavalry, enemy Julii cavalry coming in, and bang! I think that's basically every cavalry unit in the game there is smashed into that right flank of ours. Whoa, what a massive cavalry hit that is. Yep, I think every single cavalry unit now in the game is now involved in this particular battle on the right. Whoever wins here on the right, as I say, this could prove decisive and pivotal to the outcome of the battle. We've just routed the Julii enemy general. Right, he's been routed. Now, if you notice, do you know what we've talked about with cavalry attacks before? Do you remember we've said about you attack, you do the damage, and then you pull back as quick as you can? But if you notice here, I haven't pulled back. My cavalry is still pushing forward, and the reason for that is because I can see a lot of the Julii starting to rout. A lot of the enemy Julii units are starting to rout, so I'm going to push forward with my cavalry here. Keep putting the pressure on those Julii units, trying to get all of those units there to rout. Okay, over here in our left centre, you can see Steve's infantry are not engaged at the moment. But you can see the enemy Greek cities pushing forward into, I think, Uther's infantry there. So the Greek cities general is being very aggressive. Meanwhile, over here on our left centre, you can see that the enemy Julii general has moved his units over to help his team here over on this flank. But as I say, this right flank of ours, if you notice, I'm still pushing my Scipio cavalry forward. And right, can you see we have now routed all those Julio units that was there, right? But new players to Rome Total War. You know, we've talked about chasing down routers, right? If you don't chase down routers, then those routers will probably rally and come back and kind of bite you in the butt. And a lot of veterans watching this will be able to say they've seen rallied units come back and win battles. So what I remember saying to the team here as we started to rout these units, chase them down. Okay, chase those routed units down. Don't let them rally. Meanwhile, here you can see that the Canary has brought his Julio armor over from the right flank now, and will now support his Greek cities ally. But meanwhile here, as I say, new players to Rome Total War, chase those routing units down. Can you see my Scipio cavalry? I'm going after those units. I'm not going to let them rally. Can you see they're already starting to rally? So I'm going to smash into them, try and rout them, and keep chasing them down. Mind you, keep one eye on the battlefield. Make sure your cavalry is not needed immediately. Okay, but if it's not needed immediately, keep chasing those routers down. Don't let those routers return to the battlefield. As I say, all of us watching this battle who've played this game for a long time have seen rallied units come back and win battles, so don't forget to chase them down. Okay, right, meanwhile, back to the if you like, the infantry battle. Here you can see that Canari's done really well here, bringing his infantry over from the other flank there to support his Greek cities and other teammates there. He's got some units facing right there, if you notice, facing my army, and I think it's Lee's army there, and he's got units facing left there to face our SBQR teammates there attacking. So Canari's doing really well there, and if you notice, the Greek cities is still attacking aggressively with his Spartan units there. So I say there's a general view of the battle as it stands at the moment. I say my cavalry is not essentially needed at this time of the battle, so I can carry on chasing down the routers there as I'm doing at the moment. See how far I am away from the main battle there? I am determined to chase down those routers, not to let them return to the battlefield. Very, very important there for new players to Rome Total War. Okay, my guess is now that we've routed a lot of the Julio team that the enemy will now go into a defensive formation there. Remember, with those Greek city units there, they can form a very formidable defensive box, and that's what I think the enemy are looking to do here at their looking at the way that they're moving their troops around. That's what I'm thinking. There's a little breakaway group of Greek cities there, but as I say, if you look at the way that the enemy team are forming up now, it looks very defensive to me, and they look like they're going to form up a defensive formation there. As I say, there's a small group of Greek cities there that are kind of out from that formation, but it wouldn't surprise me if Legion up-speared spears and ran them back into that formation there to help to defend that defensive formation there. As I say, a lot of you have faced Greek cities before in a defensive formation, and you know how formidable they can be. And bearing in mind that he's got a lot of his allies Julio units there as well to help back them up, this could be quite a tough nut to crack, if you see what I mean. Right, as we said here, do you see Legions up to spears? And as I say, probably run those spear units back into his defensive formation there. You can see some of our SBQR troops are aggressively attacking some Greek city units there already. But there you go, can you see Legions up spears there and ran those spear units in. Can you see Uther coming in with some cavalry and bang! Trying to go into the rear of some of those retreating Greek city units. He routed one unit there. Nice hit there by Uther. Right, so let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, the enemy are now in the process of forming up a defensive formation. Okay, we're going into kind of stage 2 of the battle here, with the enemy going into a defensive formation. Now we've still got a lot of units left, but a lot of them are battle damaged there. So you see some of the Julio units are still fighting outside that defensive box. I think a couple of units are in Testudo there, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were taken back into the defensive box there. Right, if you notice here, I'm moving forward there. There's one Julio unit holding up my formation. So looking at my cavalry there, looks like I'm going to smash that unit with some cavalry. As you can see there, bang, as my cavalry hits that unit and routs it. Okay, so I think, bearing in mind that my army has been out of the battle for most of the battle, I think my troops will be fully laden with pilers. So I want to get close to that defensive formation and then really let go with my pilots there. I could cause a lot of casualties. Remember, the closer you are to those units, the more damage you can do with your pilots, and that's why I've moved really up close there to that those enemy units there, and we're now rain pilots in on those enemy units there. You can see I'm throwing loads of pilots into those units, routing some units with the casualties that they've suffered. Okay, let's pause the game for a second. So as you can see here now, as we said, the enemy have formed up a defensive formation with the bulk of troops being Greek city Spartans. So you know how formidable they are. So this is going to be a tough nut to crack, if indeed we can crack it. Let's say we haven't got a lot of infantry left, I don't think, really. And the infantry that we have got left is quite battle damaged, but bearing in mind that my army was not involved in a lot of hand-to-hand fighting, so most of my units are intact. As I say, I've got I think most of my pilots left to throw into this enemy formation, which I'm doing at the moment. Right, what I'm trying to do here, if you notice, I'm attacking the Julii units on the outside of the formation first. I want to try and take out the Julii units before we start concentrating on the Greek cities here. As I view that the enemy Roman troops there, the Arabs, are more susceptible to being taken out than those Greek cities head on. So that's what I'm trying to do here. My tactic is to try and take out as many of those enemy Julii troops as I can before I really start concentrating on those Greek city units. Right, if you see, I've got some of my units there attacking those Greek city units. And I see there's some rogue enemy Julii units around the enemy Julii units, cavalry units around the outskirts of the box here keep hitting us. Let's just pause the game for a second there. You can see a couple of very battle damaged units there, which I'm sure Mars would use really well, attacking the rear of our engaged troops, so we need to keep an eye on him. You probably go for the our generals if he can there, to try and get a lucky hit and take out a general maybe. But you can see here, remember, we are the blue and the SBQR, the enemy are the red and the Greek cities, okay? So the enemy are the red and the Greek cities. Let's say we are the blue and the purple. See those two Julii cavalry units I pointed out to you earlier? It looks like they're going to charge in on one of my battle damaged units there, probably going to rout it, and bang! They hit that unit, and they say they've routed one of my Scipio units there. Nice cavalry hit there by Mars. As you can see, we're trying to put a lot of pressure on this defensive box there. Let's say when you form up a defensive box, your micromanagement's got to be good. You've got to keep an eye on that box all the time, moving units from the center of your formation out to where the most pressure is on the, if you like, the outskirts of your formation. Right, if you notice here, I've got my cavalry in, I've brought my cavalry in on normal formation. I'm now going to put them into wedge formation there. Remember, wedge formation, you get more penetration, okay? The wedge formation really penetrate into enemy lines. So I've got my cavalry into that wedge formation now, ready to charge in when I can. If you notice there, we're putting pressure on the, if you like, the one side of the defensive box. If you notice this side, what we're looking at from here, there's no pressure being put on that box at all there. See this enemy Julii and Greek city troops there. Right, can you see those couple of Julii cavalry just charge into the rear of our SBQR allies general there? Nice little hit there by Mars, trying to take that general out. If you notice, Steve, Lee and myself now are aggressively attacking the box on that one side. That defensive box on that one side, we're putting a lot of pressure on there. If you notice, they've got the Julii generals and Greek city generals right in the centre of their formation. That's great to do that. They're giving morale to their troops all the time. So always remember, protect your generals, keep them in the centre of that formation there. It's a great thing to do. I see some of the Julii units are still in Testudo outside that defensive box. It might be a good idea to put those units back inside the box. Those two rogue Julii cavalry units still smashing into the back of the our allies' SBQR units there. Right, let's just pause the game and take stock exactly what's going on. As you can see here, I'm attacking with my Scipio infantry. Remember, this is my old army with good upgrades on. Right, see my cavalry. What I want to do is charge into this formation. I'm going to aim for a far unit on the boxer right over this side, so that's going to force my cavalry to try and smash through those enemy units there. But I am aware that there's Greek city units, so those Spartan units, very, remember 2 hits, really good specifications and good anti-cavalry bonus those units have got. So I'm going to have to be extremely careful where I charge my cavalry in here. Okay, I'm looking for a gap, if I can, between Greek city units I can charge my cavalry in. Okay, so say we're putting a bit more pressure on the enemy now. But as I say, down this side that we're looking at now, you can see that the box isn't being attacked at all. It's mainly over this side that we're actually attacking. As I say, remember that old army of mine, the troops that are left have got experience stripes on, so that's going to keep them fighting for longer. And I'm really aggressively attacking these Greek city units now. So we're putting a lot of pressure on that box at this one end. I think Lee, Steve and Uther's all got their infantry in there. Can you see that Julio cavalry charging into the rear of my engaged troops there? Bang! So those cavalry hit. Okay, they're very battle damaged cavalry. They're not going to do a lot of damage, but smashing into the rear of units can always cause problems. Right? Can you see I've moved my Scipio cavalry forward there, trying to take out that Julio unit that's left. That's been harassing and haranguing us, that cavalry unit. But I don't want to tire my cavalry out chasing down that unit. I want to keep my cavalry fresh. I want to keep them focused on where I'm going to try and hit that box with my cavalry. Okay, can you see here we're putting a lot of pressure on the enemy team here, as I say, at this end where my Scipio cavalry are attacking there. Really trying to push in there. If you notice, I'm trying to make inroads into that that box there, being very aggressive. Okay, let's just pause the game and have a close look at the box there. At defensive formation box. Can you see where my cavalry are aiming there? If you look, remember they're in wedge formation for maximum penetration. Can you see, looking at the box there, there's a gap starting to form between the Greek city units. Right, can you see there's a gap? These Greek city units are fighting that way, and those Greek city units are fighting that way. So there's a gap in between those Greek cities. Can you see that gap there? Now that's where I'd like to charge my cavalry through, aiming for a rear enemy unit. Maybe that unit at the back there. Forcing my cavalry to charge straight through the enemy ranks. Now, as I say, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a gap in those enemy spears, because I know my cavalry would be really smashed up pretty bad by hitting spears back, right head on. But there is a gap there, if you've noticed. And if you notice, I'm forcing my infantry units into that gap as well. Trying to take on any enemy infantry facing that way. So that's where I'm looking to hit. Looking for a gap in between the spears there to smash my cavalry in. You can see that enemy Julio unit still smashing into the rear of our units there. And if you notice, the enemy are still micromanaging that defensive box there, but that gap is still there. See that gap there? The enemy spearmen are fighting in different direction there, and if I can charge my cavalry through... Right, can you see my cavalry's coming in now? Watch for the impact as that cavalry comes in through my infantry there, through my engaged infantry, and bang, as that cavalry hits. Right, straight in between those spears. And can you see there's a chain rout starting now? The cavalry hit has started a chain rout of the enemy troops, which is what I was hoping it would do. When you get into a defensive formation, if units start routing, you can well really get a good chain rout going there, and that's what's happened. There was a chain reaction, and all the enemy units have now been routed by that massive cavalry hit there. Remember, did you notice that all our allies charged in at the same time? I remember saying to the team, I'm going in with my cavalry now, and just as soon as I said that, every one of us charged all our units in at the same time. So all our units were engaged there, smashing straight into that defensive box as my cavalry hit. And that's why when you form a defensive box, if you get a big hit from one direction, it can cause a mass rout, as you've just seen. And let's just pause the game for a second. Now remember over on the right flank where we thought that could be pivotal to the battle. Do you remember that massive cavalry battle we saw there? And you can see how intense that cavalry battle was by the amount of dead that's there. Mostly cavalry. It looks like there is infantry there as well, obviously, but you can see big mounds of cavalry there. So that right flank, as we said, may have proved pivotal to the outcome of the battle and decisive there. But as I say, when you attack an enemy box there, if you can start getting units to rout, then very often it can lead to a chain rout there. A defensive box there can lead to a chain rout, and that's exactly what you've just seen happen there. So new players to Rome Total War, see, that is the key to cracking a good defensive box. And remember that you've got good players there that were good micromanaging defensive box there, but I just saw that gap and made the most of it with my cavalry. As I say, when I said to my teammates, right, I'm going in with cavalry, and if you notice then, they charged all their units in as well. So we really did hit the enemy defensive box from all directions there, and our team has managed to go on and win the battle there. Now I was very surprised it was a clear victory, bearing in mind the casualties that we'd suffered. I thought it was going to be maybe a close victory there. Just say really well played to everybody in the game there. Some really good moves going on there, and some really good attacking moves. I'd just like to draw your attention. Can you see that Uther has got the smallest army in the game? His army only 1,237, and if you notice my army only 1,309. So we've got the two smallest armies in the game, but we've got the two highest kills. So new players to Rome Total War, it's not maybe about the size of the army that you bring, but it's how you use it in combination with your allies that gets the good kills. So I say Uther and myself there with the two smallest armies managed to get the two highest kills there. So as I say, it's a good example to newer players about what type of army build you might like. And nice kills for Legion there as well, 1,439, and nice kills for Lee as well there, 1,451 with his massive army of 18 herbs and 2 cavalry there. So that's that was really well played to Mars, Bark, Canary, Kurwa and Legion 22. Really well done, guys. That was a nice defensive box you formed up there, and really well played, and nice supporting moves there as well. But also really well done to Steve Longshanks, who's Henry V. Well done to RTW player Lee, and well done to Uther as well. Some nice aggressive attacking there. Well done, guys. And I hope the new players to Rome Total War, watching how you can attack a defensive box there helped. I see Steve didn't maybe get the kills that he wanted to, but he did a lot of damage with his archers there. And Mars and Bark probably didn't get the kills that they wanted to, but there was a lot of aggressive attacks on it. Spartan Commander saying bye for now.